Hello, I'm Dr. Phil Busey. I will present for identification set 5 containing 12 species of Florida native plants. Species are listed alphabetically by scientific name. Only one species may present difficulty in finding it in some references, and that is sweet acacia, which has been transferred from the genus Acacia to the genus Vachellia, so it is now Vachellia farnesiana. More than half these species are growing in or were photographed in the native section of University of Miami's Gifford Arboretum, named after Professor John C. Gifford, who was the reportedly first person to receive a PhD in forestry in the United States. And he also had a major impact on the flora of South Florida, introducing the Melaleuca. Our first species, red Maple Acer rubrum, grows in wet areas in Florida. Its leaves are reddish in color in the fall and again when they re-emerge in the spring. The leaves of the genus Acer, including Acer rubrum, are distinctive. Many people can recognize these by their 3 to 5 lobes as well as teeth. The maple graces the flag of Canada. The red maple and other maples typically have a lighter color on the underside of the leaves. They produce a winged fruit, which is a double samara. While you are appreciating this gorgeous red color of a maple tree, a red maple, I should remind you that the leaves are simple and opposite. Amyris elemifera, torchwood, has small white flowers almost all year long, and its leaves are opposite and pinnately compound with 3 to 5 leaflets. What I like about torchwood is the fragrance of the broken leaves. Some people would say it smells more like citrus, and that would be appropriate because it is an opposite-leaved genus in the citrus family. Annona glabra, pond apple, is a very important species in South Florida. It grows in wetland areas close to Lake Okeechobee and other places near marshes. It has an alternate lanceolate leaf that borders on being oblong. So it is relatively nondescript in terms of its leaf structure. And sometimes you do see little fruits growing on it that look very much like apple. In wet areas, it can form a buttressed trunk, and it's a hallmark of the Everglades. Chrysophyllum oliviforme, satinleaf, is not terribly interesting to look at it from up above. But turn the leaf over and it's satiny copper in coloration. It's just amazingly beautiful. Obviously, it has a simple alternate leaf. And there it is again, showing that the younger leaves are transitioning from silvery to copper. Most parts of the plant will produce a milky latex. These are some fruits. And there's the bark. We need to look at bark to identify some species. At Gifford Arboretum, I looked up into the trees to see if I could recognize anything, and sure enough, there was Chrysophyllum oliviforme, satinleaf. Forestiera segregata, Florida privet, I photographed here at Boca Grande on the west coast of Florida. It is another native species. It is a spreading shrub or small tree, and it can also be grown as a hedge. The flowers are greenish. The leaves are small, less than 1.5 inches long, and very narrow. There's Forestiera segregata again. And let's take a closer look at the grape-like, grape-sized fruit. Guaiacum sanctum, lignum vitae, is one of my favorite Florida native plants. It is endangered. It is known for extremely hard wood that has reportedly been used in boat propellers. The leaves of Guaiacum sanctum are pinnate. They are once pinnate and they are not bipinnate, although they may look so because the leaves are opposite. There are 3 to 6 pairs of leaflets per leaf, in contrast with another introduced species of Guaiacum that typically has 2 or 3 pairs of leaflets per leaf. The most dramatic feature of the plant is the flower color, which is a vibrant purple. There you can see 4 leaves, 2 pairs of opposite leaves on either side of the stem. Each has 5 or 6 pairs of leaflets, and there's a tiny little almost thorn-like point at the tip of each leaflet. To really identify Guaiacum sanctum, the lignum vitae, from an introduced species, we need to look at the maturing fruits in the bottom center. You can see that they have 5 wing-like angles, unlike the introduced species, which has only 2. And notice that the fruits, the capsules, have split, and they are displaying a bunch of red arils, which is an attractive structure to get birds probably interested in taking the seed. Krugiodendron ferreum, ironwood, is a small to medium-sized tree, although in many uses it really never gets bigger than a shrub. It has a columnar shape. There's an example of a plant at South Point in South Miami Beach. Krugiodendron ferreum was named ironwood because of the extreme hardness of the wood. Krugiodendron ferreum ironwood is generally supposed to have opposite arranged leaves, and they would be simple and rather blunt on the ends. And that's how I would recognize it, along with the wavy margin of the leaves. But when we looked at Krugiodendron ferreum at Gifford Arboretum, some of the leaves were actually alternate and some were what would be called subopposite. So you have to go more about the shape, appearance of the leaf than anything else to identify this. There's the flower, a yellowish flower, and there's an emerging fruit of Krugiodendron ferreum. Laguncularia racemosa, white mangrove, is one of 3 Florida native mangrove species with mangrove in the name. All 3 have opposite leaves. White mangrove is probably so named because of the color of the bark, which is white. White mangrove, as I said, would have opposite leaves, but they can be distinguished from the other species. You can see that Laguncularia racemosa, white mangrove leaves, look very similar on the upper and lower leaf surface. In fact, I can't be sure which is which. I think the one on the left with the raised midrib may be the upper leaf surface, and the one on the right with the raised midrib may be the lower leaf surface. Another species, Pleopeltis polypodioides, is the second fern we considered so far, and it is called the resurrection fern because it will dry out in the dry season and it will reemerge with fresh leaves when rain returns. Here it is growing on a live oak at Treetops Park in Davie, Florida. And here it is growing on another tree at Gifford Arboretum. Very interesting fern. Rhizophora mangle, red mangrove, is the second of the 3 native Florida mangroves that have mangrove in the name. Red mangrove is the only one of the 3 species that has prop roots. It too, along with the white mangrove, has leaves that are arranged opposite, and even the stems are dramatically opposite in their arrangement. That theme persists. And here are the leaves of Rhizophora mangle, red mangrove. Notice that the upper and lower leaf surfaces differ quite a bit. Here is the upper and here is the lower leaf surface of red mangrove. It has a strongly prominent midrib on the lower leaf surface. So that's one easy way to tell it apart from white mangrove. Rhizophora mangle produces a one-seeded fruit that germinates viviparously, which means it germinates in place, reaching a length of perhaps 10 inches long before it falls down into the silt in the saltwater area. And there are some young red mangrove Rhizophora mangle seedlings coming up. And there are the stilt roots. Rivina humilis is a subshrub. It's not really woody, although it is a perennial, and it grows abundantly in natural areas in South Florida. It seems to be somewhat invasive according to its occurrence in edges of clearings. It has a bright red fruit. It certainly is a native plant species to South Florida. Rouge Plant. Here you can see the delicate pale violet and white flowers, alternate simple leaves. This is the subject I used on another video having to do with drawing of plants. And you can see the habit at Robbins Park in town of Davie. And there I am trying to draw the leaves of Rivina humulus, which is another video that's available. Rouge Plant. If you rub the fruit between your thumb and your forefinger, it will create a temporary bright red stain, which is quite interesting. Our last Florida native plant species is sweet acacia, with the current scientific name Vachellia farnesiana. It used to be Acacia farnesiana, but has been transferred to the genus Vachellia. And that is a photograph of a plant near the Miami-Dade College Kendall campus Landscape Technology Nursery. There are three features on this close-up of Vachellia farnesiana. One is the leaf in the upper center. It is a bipinnate leaf. It's compound twice. This leaf has 6 pairs of primary pinnae, which are the primary leaf divisions, and each appears to me to have somewhere between 10 and 15 pairs of small leaflets. On the left is the globular head, the yellow puffball, which contains hundreds of small regular flowers, by which this plant produces a gentle fragrance that blows in the wind. Very, very sweet smelling. The arrow on the lower right points out a pair of thorns, very sharp needle-like spines that can be quite uncomfortable if you run through a hedge of this plant. And finally, as we would expect, a member of the Fabaceae, or the pea family, would typically have a pod, legume-type fruit. So that's it for set 5. Thanks.